classes that she currently has active. If she's looking to invite students, she can go here and go to option 2, use Google Classroom, and sync with Google Classroom. Any student who is currently in her Google Classroom will be imported into her Quill Classroom. So then when she clicks on Manage Classes, she'll be able to see how many students have been imported into each class. This is probably the easiest way to do logins anyways, or anywhere, just because it means that you're not having students duplicate accounts and they're ready to assign things to right away. If you are not quite ready to import your classes for whatever reason, I recommend starting out our session by creating a dummy class. I frequently call that class assignments, right? And then I can select whatever grade, and then I would create this class. The reason for that is Quill will not allow you to assign activities or to look at new activities unless you have a class to which you can assign them. So I recommend having an assignments class so you can put things in there, and then when you're ready to assign it to your students, you can go into your things that you've assigned, your My Activities, and you can access them through your assignments class. Okay, so let me just give you a tour of this document real quick. So this is a resource. I am Quill's Director of School Partnerships. I am also a former New York City teacher. I am also a former New York City ed tech coach. So I found Quill when I was working with a writing teacher, and we were frustrated because we knew our students needed grammar practice, but that wasn't really something that we were allowed to teach in New York. So our goal was to find a tool that would really support strong student writing without being sort of like rote memorization of grammar skills. We were really excited to find Quill. And the things that I've loved most about them that pushed me to join their team were I really appreciated how responsive they were. I really appreciated how much teacher feedback they absorbed. And I appreciated how strongly research-based the tools are, right? So the Quill tools are our diagnostic, which helps you to figure out what assignments your students should be working on. Quill Connect, which supports with sentence combining work, so students being able to join sentences in a way that shows the relationship between ideas. Quill Grammar, which sort of brings us to those foundational grammar skills. And Quill Proofreader, where students get an opportunity to apply grammar skills to a larger passage. Quill Lessons is our newest feature, and it allows for a collaborative learning setting. You can do this with a small group or your whole class, and that what happens is you have the opportunity with your students to work through a lesson, right? So it'll push slides to them. They have a chance to supply their answers. You can display them to the class. But what's great about it is that it actually provides sort of like teaching content and good questions to ask to build a discussion out around the different skills you find on Quill. So each one of these links to a section. In that section, you'll see a few ideas shared by other teachers. Please feel free to share your own, and it will link you to the tool page. Okay. So this tool page will allow you to go through a preview of it, see some of the special features, and just learn a little bit more about what exists. So I'm walking you through this because I know we won't have time to go through every single tool. I also want you to note a couple extra resources here. When you're getting started, it seems like most of you are in a good place, but if you need a little support, we have these getting started guides. This learning and previewing will take you to all the same links as below. It'll just take you to the main page. The frequently asked questions, you can go here and type in any question that you have, and it usually has an answer. If you're not finding that answer, the next step for you is to go and find the little widget in the corner. Let me see if I can find my little widget in the corner. It looks like we've X'd out. So in the corner, you will see a little chat bubble. That chat bubble is a tool called Intercom. And if you click on that chat bubble, you can open it up and message our team. That message is answered by me. You'll see my face on it. It's answered by our content associate. It's answered by our lead designer. It's answered by our interns, right? So you will reach someone on our very small team. We are 8 people with 3 interns coming on this fall. So you will reach our very small team right away. The other option you have, and one of the things that we really like for our school to do, is to reach out to me directly at Becca@Quill. Your feedback is really, really, really essential to Quill. Like I said, we're a small team, and a lot of what we're built on is community feedback and community contribution. So we really rely on you to be able to build the strongest possible tool. And so anything you notice or think about, it's really helpful for us to hear. So that's just my plug from the advanced to be in communication with us and tell us what you love and what's a struggle for you. Okay. So last thing in here that's super valuable, I think, in a lot of cases, as far as I understand, it seems like you all do have a L population at the school. Yeah? Yes. Great. This document right here will link you to an Intercom article that provides a series of extensions, especially since you're using Google, I imagine Google Chrome. These extensions can make a difference to supporting students across the board in different areas and not just on Quill. As we build out Quill, we'll build in more and more of these accessibility features, but I really like these as a way to get students engaged throughout the course of their work, right? So there's some language support, there's some tools that will read aloud things to students, and then there's some voice typing and other tools you can use to support your students. How many people in the room have, or just give me a hey if you have L newcomers? So that's students who have limited English proficiency when they arrive.
Brand new, limited English.
I'm almost hearing something in the background there.
Not as many.
Sorry, guys. Did I get one answer there?
Last year there was like 6.
Oh, okay. So the only reason I ask is because what we find on Quiller, there are 2 things that really trip students up. One is that our sentence construction, those skills can be challenging for students who don't have basic mastery of language. What we recommend is under the diagnostic, rather than having that student, and this includes students with IEPs, students who are multiple levels below grade level, younger students who maybe haven't mastered some of the basics yet, rather than using the Quill sentence structure diagnostic, which is the first one that you'll see, we recommend using the L diagnostic for those students. What that's going to do is it's going to gear the recommendations that we make towards grammar skills and foundational skills that will support students later on. So you can start out by having them take the L diagnostic and work through grammar recommendations, and then have them move into the sentence structure diagnostic and sentence combining activities. The other thing to note, I imagine since you're a Google Classroom school, your students are pretty familiar with typing. If you have any students who struggle with typing, Quill does require that students write out complete sentences. So if your students struggle with typing, I recommend picking up a typing app like typingclub.com. That's one we've seen teachers have a lot of success with because it teaches students touch typing from the home bar. So we just consider those things worthwhile to remember. If students are not typing at a speed of 20 to 25 words per minute, you are probably going to deal with some frustrated kids. Any questions so far?
I don't think so. I think we're good.
Great. Okay. So how do I get started with Quill? The answer is the Quill diagnostic, right? I am going to go into our demo account real quick. So I'm creating a demo account, and you guys will have access to that. I'll send it to you in an email immediately following this call. It's going to take a second for it to load. When you're getting into Quill, what you all can do while you're watching along with me is you can go to the Assign Activities tab in your account. You go to the Assign Activities tab, and then you look for the Entry Diagnostic box. Okay. So you're under Assign Activities, Entry Diagnostics, and you're going to look for the L diagnostic if you're working with students with higher needs, or you're going to click on the Sentence Structure Diagnostic. Notice this little widget in the corner, that's me or our team. You can always feel free to message there, or you can clear it so it's not in your way. We're working to make that pop-up just a little less obnoxious. So from here, you'll be able to walk through, find out what things will be tested. You'll be able to assign it to your students. You can assign to different groups of students. You can also preview the diagnostic. Some things to note when you're using the diagnostic and with Quill in general, we try to keep our directions very simple and straightforward. In terms of the sentences, a couple things that students do right off the bat that make it a struggle are they add adjectives and description rather than simply changing the sentence to be a complete sentence. They assume that every sentence must be changed, even though some of them are fine the way they are. And others will sort of delete details, right? So listening, like an example would be, I listen on the ride home. If I took out the tune music, those are sort of things that Quill's paying attention to because they want to know that when you're creating a sentence, you can do it without adding or removing details that are essential to the sentence in the first place. Okay. So your students work through the diagnostic. What comes next? If ever I need to navigate back to my main screen now, I'm just going to click on Profile here. And now I'm going to go to my student reports. Okay, so you won't be able to see much here for now, but under student reports, if I click on diagnostic, I can see the diagnostics my student has completed. Now, the first bite I get here is that I can see that Charles here, it was really struggling with the diagnostic. Harper was a pro. She's doing really great work. So now I'm going to go over to my recommendations. Based on this work, we recommend independent practice. Now, these are not all of the activities available on Quill. These are kind of what we consider prerequisites, right? If students master these skills, then they will be able to work with any activity. We are on a monthly basis building out more content, and most of that is now going to be based on social studies or science or art history concepts. So what you'll see is as you go through the packs, you'll find things like the American Revolution pack, you'll find things like the geology pack, and those will allow students to work on writing skills in context, right? So that's a super helpful thing that we find, right? In most of our sentences, even the simplest of activities, students are still able to learn something. The two questions I ask as a teacher when I'm in the room are, what writing skill are you practicing and what information are you learning, right? So that students are starting to see that they can read both as a reader and a writer in that experience. So based on this, I can see what packs have been recommended to my students and I can assign those packs. That means when Maya logs in for the first time, she's going to immediately be assigned the compound sentences pack. An activity pack includes 8 activities about, and each activity includes about 10 sentences. When we're thinking of an activity, it takes most students 10 minutes, give or take a few, to work through one activity. If you're thinking about how Quill integrates into your class over the course of the week, we recommend 2 or 3 times a week for 10 to 15 minutes, and not much more than that. What we find is when people do sort of bulk exposure to Quill, students don't start applying those skills in their actual writing outside of Quill, right? This is something I know and I can do on Quill, but I'm not necessarily transferring it, right? So if I look here, I know all of my students are going to be working on complex sentences. So I'm going to look at this pack real quick and note what skills they're working on, right? So one of the things I'm going to be looking for is that my students are using the after-before starters correctly when they're writing complex sentences. So I can say to students, make sure you complete this before writing your next draft because I will be looking for that in your writing. Another thing that teachers have found to be really helpful is, say, if you're doing something like a station rotation, is to say to students, after you've done the Quill activity, when you move to the next station, your job is going to be to proofread your work or a classmate's work to make sure that they have used this rule appropriately or to add this type of sentence into their writing, right? So whatever you can do, and this is true with every ed tech tool, these are just my examples for Quill, whatever you can do to make sure that students are being asked to think about this skill outside of the website, that's where we find the like deepest impact in terms of students really practicing these skills all the time. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to work on one of these activities, and let's go ahead and do when, whenever, wow. Okay, so once again, instructions are super duper simple. At the beginning, we try to focus on example-based, right? So this entire page is the entire lesson on this, right? We try to really focus on examples and not on jargon. We really try to avoid jargon based on the amount of research that now tells us when we focus on kids defining gerund, they stop being able to use the word, right? So we want to, or use the idea. So we really want students to be able to use the idea, right? So here what we're trying to do is figure out when, while, when, and whenever are appropriate. Okay, beavers are 2 years old, and now I know I'm going to be using the word when, okay? When beavers, I'm just going to write a sentence here. When beavers are 2 years old, they leave home, and I'm going to just leave it that way. Okay, so I put it in the right spot, but now I need to correct my capitalization. Right? And Quill's going to give me some hints and reminders of things that I need to change before I can move forward. Oh, okay, I still haven't updated my punctuation, so it's going to ask me to go through and do that. Okay. So this is my favorite page in Quill, and students see it after almost every single sentence in Connect. They get options of multiple correct answers, and they can see how frequently those answers have been chosen. When I look at 71%, I don't think to myself, that's the most right. I think that's the most common, right? When I see 4%, I don't think that's the most wrong. I think that's the most unique. All three of these sentences are correct. Here are a couple things for students to know. When they are answering these questions, they may come up with an answer that is not in the top 3. That is wonderful. We get really excited about that because if they followed all of the rules, used the correct words and written a correct answer, and it's not the same, that means that they found a unique way to express themselves, and we really appreciate that. Occasionally, you will end up in a circumstance where you will look over a student's shoulder. They have used the correct words, they have used all the details, and Quill is still not recognizing their correct answer. We call that something very specific with students, and it's something I like to celebrate and would like to help you in celebrating. We call that outsmarting the algorithm, right? So each one of these activities you see, there is a human being who spent 4 hours building it out, considering all of the possible answers, and providing specific feedback to students based on that. We then train our algorithm to recognize that. As sentences come in, we train our algorithm to recognize more and more correct answers. If your student finds one of these and takes a screenshot and sends it to us, we can make sure that that's added to our list of correct answers. So please, by all means, have students share those with us, and I will send them my, my song and dance and glory for thanking them. The cool thing is that every time a student does that, every time a student outsmarts the algorithm, we get to make it smarter for our 600,000 and growing users on a daily basis. I also think that as someone who's worked in ed tech for a long time, it's really essential for students to know the role they play in the technology that they're using. And I think that this is a great opportunity to share that lesson. Okay. Questions?
No question? They're taking it all in. I don't think we have any questions right now.
Great. All right, then I'm just going to keep rolling through. Okay, so we have looked at diagnostic recommendations. We've looked at some of the assignments your students can be working on. Let's go ahead and dig a little bit into the reporting features. Okay. The 3 premium reports that you're going to have access to as a school are the list overview. This is sort of the one for like anyone who's like a data head or a data nerd, right? Like this is the place where you can go and you can download this report as a CSV. What that'll allow you to do is see each student, each assignment they completed, what their scores have been, what it's aligned with, and what type of activity they were working on. As we go, soon you'll be able to see how many attempts a student has made. I'll show you another place where you can see that information. But if you're someone who likes to like mess around with things or sort things in a new order or whatever else, this is a great place to like get that raw data and mess around with it. I'm going to jump back just for a minute to one of our regular reports. So I should mention, Quill isn't always will be free in terms of our content, right? The Quill Connect, Quill Grammar, Quill Proofreader, Quill Lessons are all going to be available forever for free. And that's part of our goal and our mission as a nonprofit is to make those available. What we do then is our training and our support and also our student reports. Those are the areas that are a little more tricky, so we ask for your help in keeping our lights on. So this visual overview will always be available to you. And what you can see here is we've got some color coding and some symbols. Okay, green, when I talk to students, the students will see this along the side of their page, right? So I'll see the name of a lesson if I'm a student, and then I will see a green, yellow, red, blue, white, or gray, okay? Gray, I haven't started it yet. This white box, I'm in progress. If you see the little Pac-Man in the corner, that means I'm working on it. Blue means I'm completed it, but it's not graded, right? So Quill Lessons, I'm pointing at my screen. I realize you can't see that. I'm going to use my mouse now. So Quill Lessons and Quill Diagnostic will show up as blue. And the reason is there is no auto grading embedded in either one of those two features, right? So students will know they've engaged in that, but will not be able to see a score. What I can see when I scan over that is just a quick breakdown of how a student did, right? So if I look at the sentence structure diagnostic for Maya, I notice right off the bat, she has been able to figure out she has struggled a little bit with the comma before coordinating conjunctions here, right? So she had 2 opportunities to do it, and both times she missed it. I know that in terms of subordinate conjunctions in the middle of the sentence, she's killing the game. She got all 4 opportunities right. So I can see the different things based on a quick glance at this. The next one here are these different colors that indicate scores. When I talk to students, I use this phrase. Green, great job. Yellow, try again. Red, ask for help. Okay. The reason I use these terms is red is for anything under 60%. Frequently when we have students who are missing the mark by that much, they need a teacher to walk them through one sentence or one example before they will be able to be successful with it, right? I'd really like to encourage students to reach out to their teachers then on their own, sort of advocate for themselves in that way. So I tell them that when you see a red, that just means ask for help. Yellow means try again, right? So anything in yellow is between 60 and 80%. And most of the time in these cases, students can find their way by going back and carefully reading the instructions and trying the sentences a second time. Green, that means they've passed and they've got that information there for them, okay? These colors at the top don't mean anything. That's a slight little glitch as we go. But what you will also see is, say they completed this red assignment and you see a little Pac-Man in the corner. What that means is that they have started working on that assignment again, right? Once they've completed it, you will see a number in the corner. It'll say 2 if they've completed it twice, 3, and so on. If I see a red with 2 attempts on it, I'm going to try to go talk to the student about that red right away. If I see a yellow with 2 attempts, I might just check to say, hey, what was your first attempt like, right, as they go. And if I see a green with 2 attempts, that means, hey, we made it, right? That's awesome. So these are just a few ways that I sort of encourage you to help your students look at their information and for you to look at the information in a quick, in a quick scan from a distance. A couple other things I want to highlight here. Concepts report, this is one of my favorites. I think that there's some stuff we're going to do soon that'll make that even better, but for now, I just love the heck out of these reports. So let's take, I think this is Charles. Nope, this is Maya. Okay. So what we can see, I'm not entirely sure why it's blurring out pieces. Okay, but what we can see here is Maya's report includes the different categories. It doesn't include the name here for some reason, I'm not entirely sure, but the categories under which Maya is doing each of these things, right? So I can see in this adjectives and adverbs category, and there will be a more specific name that I can't see right now. And then the number of questions, she's at about 60%, right? So if I'm looking through the skill report here, I'm going to have some conversations with her based on this. Now, things that I'm not going to worry about, I'm not going to worry about anything where she's only had one attempt, right? Like this is just not a big deal. Anything I'm really excited about is any place where I see they've had multiple opportunities and gotten it right multiple times. In the same capacity, I'm noticing here that Maya's having a little bit of trouble with punctuation, right? This means that 4 different times she's gotten the punctuation wrong in a piece. And I just want to remind her to go back and check, right? So this is another good report you can use if you're planning a conference with a student or other ways to check in. The last one here is the Common Core standards. Now, I really love this report, but I think it's important to be very careful about how you use it. I would not use the Common Core report in conversations with students. Here's why. In terms of the Common Core, what we find is that each one of the grammar skills sort of starts at a certain age, right? So I was expected to master a certain standard, or I was expected to see it for the first time in 2nd grade, right? The standard here, produce, expand, and rearrange complete and simple and compound sentences, right? This appears for the first time in 2nd grade, but we all know that there are plenty of adults who have not yet mastered this skill. I find that when I share the grade level with students, that really discourages them. So I would encourage you to focus on content. One of the things that this is helpful for is if you have, say, for example, a student with an IEP, and your focus with that student is for them to reach mastery in 40 out of 60 of the standards, right? Or 40 out of, 40% of cases, right? So if I'm looking at this, I can see across the board, 3 standards have been mastered. In 3 areas, the student is not yet proficient. Questions about any of the reports?
Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question, and I need to find it on my screen. There's a list overview for laughter concepts, and it seems like all my students have mastered. No, that's not even it. No, but there's a diagnostic where it shows everyone at 100%. Yeah. And it's contrary to the other scores. Yeah, same thing.
Is this what you're looking at?
It's almost like a preview, and it will say like there's 7 kids that are 100%. It's like a preview to this screen.
Huh. Interesting. Can you do me a favor and take a screenshot of it? Because that sounds like a bug to me, and I want to check it out and send you and get it.
You know what? It's the home screen under classes where it says lowest performing students.
Ah, I see.
But it lists all of the kids getting 100%. Yeah. It just seems like a little glitch.
Yeah, that is a glitch. Can you take a picture of that for me? We've been having some issues with these reports right here on the main page. The dashboard tiles on any website are always a little weird. So if you let us know, that's something we can check.
Yeah, it's so right. So when you initially open the home screen, it's 100%. Now I'm looking at mine where it was all 100% yesterday. Now it's in line with the actual results.
Well, that's good. So it updated effectively. There's a chance that there was a fix pushed out yesterday. I know they made a few. But in the case that something like that happens, the easiest thing to do is just screenshot it and send it to me, and someone on my team can bug test it and try to get it fixed for you pretty quickly.
Gotcha. Now, one more question. Do you have an app developed? Because I know in Safari on the iPad it can get glitchy. And
yeah.
A lot of products, if they develop the app, that kind of takes care of some of the glitchiness of it.
Yeah, so we are in the process of developing an application, and that's a pretty steep process. And right now it does work on just a thing about the iPad or phone use specifically. I find that students make sure that they're looking at it in landscape. A lot of the bugs are resolved. In general, though, right now we are working on building out an application. It is not something that's available yet. Our team's working really hard on it, and we have every hope that it will be released sometime this spring. But it's up there on a list of other things that, it's things like, do we focus on mastery or do we focus on getting the app together? So we're working on it.
Can I ask another question?
Yes.
And I think this is a great product.
Thanks.
If you would ask me what you could add immediately, I would look for a search tool where you can pull up the student report immediately.
Yeah. Okay, can you tell me more about that, please?
So when you go into products like a New ZLA or New ZLA, you can, there's a search bar and you can search a student and it pulls up the reports. So that saves a teacher time instead of going into classes and then looking. I know that's, we're talking saved, but it's also easy on the eyes. Now I know this is such, you have such a good product that I'm really searching for things that you could do.
That's great. And you know, the nice thing, it's funny, you hit on one of the things that I know we're working a lot on now, which is the navigability of the pages, right? So we have a lot of good things going on, but being able to get easily from one place to another can be tricky. Now, those are things we won't fix overnight, but the more ideas we have, the more we can build in our roadmap in terms of making changes and improving your experience, right? So those are like super duper helpful pieces of feedback, and it makes a difference for you and then for all of our users. So thanks for that.
Can I ask a question? What's your youngest grade that uses this? Like,
for the most part, I would say 3rd grade. Occasionally at the end of 2nd grade, we have students using it. Just the big issue there is, are they good typers, right? And have you had them start with the grammar work? We find that much lower than, you know, end of 2nd grade, and students are just so frustrated by the process of typing that it can be a real challenge. But, you know, if you have an advanced 2nd grader who's, you know, a typing whiz, yeah, let them go. But our standards go all the way back to 1st grade standards.
Thank you. So I know the bell is going to ring in terms of our meeting time.
Sure.
So I do want to thank you. I think this was incredibly helpful to get us started.
And just one quick thing, as you're sitting there, please shoot me an email, becca@quill.org. It can just say a next step. It can say something that you wish the website did or something that you like about it. But that's a good way for me to be able to be in touch and share these resources with you after the call. Stephanie, I can hang out for a minute if that's helpful too.
What's that?
I can hang out for a minute if that's helpful, or if you want to check in.
Well, it's funny, I have another group coming that I'll have to facilitate, so.
All right, let's get out of here then.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right, take care all. It was nice meeting you.
You too, bye-bye.